So before we begin actually trying to program a hall-like sound in LX480, I just want to show you the source material we'll be working with. Like I explained previously, we've got a stripped down string arrangement, some acoustic guitars, an electric bass, and some lead vocals. So let's play the source sound.
They would never understand.
So it's a nicely recorded instrumental section, and with quite a punchy, loud lead vocal. But it is quite dry, it's quite enclosed, and even though the balance sounds nice and the frequency content feels good, it lacks overall gravitas and liveness. And this is one of the things that we're going to help to try and achieve using hall-like algorithms. And the most obvious place to add a healthy amount of hall is to the string section, because again, it's a smaller number of players that we want to make it sound like they're much bigger and playing in a bigger space. So let's go ahead and create a send on the overall strings bus, and we'll just call this string hall. And we're going to send it out the mix. Let's add LX480 version 4 to that. Great, so a good starting point here is to go to the original factory preset folder, and this is all of the factory presets from the original Lexicon 480L. And if we go into the hall section, I like some of the medium and large halls here, so let's start with the simple medium hall, and let's just have a listen to this and try to imagine what this is adding to the sound. Let's solo out the strings, and I'll turn this on and off. So I just want you to take a moment there and think about what you're hearing. So pause the video here, write down a list of what you're hearing and some of the things that adding this reverb is achieving. And then we'll reconvene in a moment and I'll explain what I'm hearing and some of the key characteristics of a hall reverb. So what makes a good hall sound? Now, to me, it's the fact that the reverb decays in a very smooth way. It doesn't sound jagged or metallic. Also the longer reverb time, so again, a smaller hall will have a reverb time around 1 to 2 seconds, whereas bigger halls will be more like 3 to 4 seconds or beyond. Another thing that hall reverbs tend to have is that they tend to smooth out the stereo width, so things sound wider, but also there's less distinction between the different parts. So all of these violins and cellos are kind of gelling together a little bit better and sounding more like a larger ensemble. Another aspect about halls is they tend to build up in density over time. So a note will hit and it will take a little bit of time for that to build up to a really intense density, and therefore it allows for note articulation but also has that longer decay. So these are some of the things I'm looking out for in a hall reverb. I want something that has a longer reverb time, something that gives width and depth, so thickness and air both kind of horizontally and, you know, vertically if we're thinking about that in 3 dimensions. And then also that the reverb buildup doesn't happen immediately and is a big burst. It kind of hands off to the reverb tail, okay? And finally, another thing is that I want the high frequencies to decay much quicker than the low frequencies. So I kind of want the low frequencies to last longer, and that gives you the sense of something fading off into the background. So let's listen to that one more time and listen out for these characteristics. So I'm going to start with the reverb off and then unmute the send, and hopefully you're going to hear these characteristics. Great, so I really feel that sense of gravitas there. Certainly things get kind of smooshed together and gel, and it's less discernible exactly where each part is, as well as naturally amplifying and elongating each sound source. However, one thing that I'm kind of lacking from this, I feel plenty of the tail, is some sense of early reflections thickening the sound. And you'll be able to tell this in LX480 by going to the early reflections tab, and we can see here that we have no early reflections in this particular preset. Now this is great for a sound source that has been recorded with plenty of early reflections in the capture. However, in this particular case I want to add kind of more thickness, so there's a couple of great presets in the same folder. So original factory halls, this one here, medium hall plus stage, and this is the same preset but with some added early reflections. So here we go, we can see we've got some early reflections here and they're fairly low in level. So let's listen to this before and after now, and hopefully we're going to get the same sense of tail and decay but with an extra thickness and air in the initial part of the sound. Great, so hopefully you heard the extra thickness and how it sounded a bit more like an ensemble when I added those early reflections in. Finally, what I'm going to do is just show you the kind of before and after with it in context.
'Cause they don't want me as I am. They would never understand it. No, from above this, why am I at the bottom now? They don't want me as I
Great, so that made the string sound better, but because everything else is so dry, it feels kind of unnatural. So in the next video, we're going to be looking at adding some sort of hall to the lead vocal, okay? And instead of programming this from a preset, we're going to start from scratch with a sound that doesn't sound very much like a hall and program that to sound more like a hall. So you can kind of see the whole process about how to program each parameter to sound much more like a hall.